I was born second, which by itself ain't a crime, unless you're born second to her. My sister, April, older by 3 years, but carried herself like she was queen of the county. My parents treated her like she hung the moon and painted the stars, while I was more like the stain on the carpet they just learned to step around. From the get-go, it was clear, April was the favorite. Now, I ain't saying I was some perfect little angel, but I tell you what, if she lit the curtains on fire, I'd get blamed for buying the matches. Once, when we were kids, she broke Mom's favorite vase and told them I did it. I was 5, still mixing up my left shoe from my right, and yet somehow, I threw it in a fit of rage. I got grounded, no birthday party that year. April? She got an extra slice of cake for being so brave. That kind of thing kept happening, over and over. I was like a piñata she could take a swing at any time, emotionally, sometimes physically, and my parents? They just looked the other way. She's going through a phase, Mom would say. Or Dad would mutter, just don't provoke her. Like me breathing was provocation enough. By the time we hit high school, things only got worse. April was flunking classes, chewing through friend groups like gum, and getting meaner by the day. Me? I kept my head down, worked hard, stayed out of trouble. But if she didn't like a girl I was talking to, boom, suddenly that girl was trouble, and I wasn't allowed to see her. And Lord help me if I tried to stand up for myself. That just meant more grounding and guilt tripping. She never missed a chance to humiliate me, especially when she noticed I was doing better, more friends, better grades, even the occasional girlfriend. It was like every little win of mine was an insult to her existence. But through all that, I didn't turn bitter. I just made a quiet promise to myself. One day, I'd get out. I'd build a life so far from their nonsense that even if they screamed my name, they wouldn't reach me. And for a while, it worked. I moved out after high school, worked 2 jobs, and scraped my way through college. Met a good woman named Maddie, smart, kind, with a sharp tongue and a no-nonsense attitude that made even April look like a yappy chihuahua by comparison. By the time I turned 28, I was on my feet. Had a steady job, a cozy apartment, and a woman who made my heart settle and my spine straighten. And then we got engaged. I should have known that would bring the storm back to town. So, Maddie and we weren't the type to make a big song and dance out of things. We didn't need 100 white doves or some fairy tale venue with chandeliers and golden forks. What we wanted was simple, a celebration with the people who mattered, a halfway decent playlist, and enough food and drink to keep folks smiling. Real love doesn't need stage lights, just good company and solid ribs. But even a low-key wedding takes planning. We picked my hometown for the ceremony, figured it'd be easier for my folks, and Maddie's family was scattered across 4 states and 1 Canadian cousin nobody could ever pin down. Plus, it gave us an excuse to visit on weekends, scope out venues, sample food, and, reluctantly, tell my parents. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I debated skipping that part. Just elope and send a postcard. But Maddie, always the optimist, said we should give them the benefit of the doubt. She'd never seen the full April show live, just the highlight reels. She figured they'd be weird, maybe a little overbearing, but nothing we couldn't handle. I didn't have the heart to tell her that my parents didn't just play favorites, they wrote the whole damn playbook on it. Still, I agreed. Because love will make a man do all kinds of things he swore he'd never do again. So we sat in their kitchen one sunny afternoon, the old linoleum floor squeaking under every chair leg, and dropped the news. Maddie and I are getting married, I said, smiling like a fool. Mom blinked. Dad cleared his throat. And April, who just happened to stop by that same day, raised an eyebrow like she smelled something sour. Well, Mom said slowly, isn't that fast? We'd been together 3 years. Dad grunted. Guess congratulations are in order. Then April chimed in, I hope it's not one of those backyard potlucks. You know how those look? I smiled politely. Maddie gave her a look that could have curdled milk. We explained the plan, small ceremony, tight guest list. Then we'd take the money we saved and put it toward a honeymoon in Europe. Maddie's idea, and a good one. She'd always wanted to see Italy, and I figured a walk through Florence with her hand in mine beat the hell out of spending 20 grand to feed people who only came for the cake. That's when April said, real casual-like, wouldn't it be funny if I showed up in a white dress? Just to mess with people. Maddie chuckled politely. I didn't, because I knew her. And I saw it. Just a flicker. The spark behind her eyes that said, that's not a joke. That's a blueprint. A few days later, my parents called. Said they wanted to contribute. Wanted to help pay for the wedding. Now, I'm not a suspicious man by nature, but that call set off every internal alarm I've got. They'd never helped me with anything growing up, not college, not rent, not even a broken-down truck when I was living off instant noodles. So why now? Maddie, God bless her, thought maybe they were trying. Maybe they wanted to make amends. Me? I knew better. Something was coming. And brother, I wasn't wrong. A week after that generous offer from my parents, Maddie sat across from me on our couch, sipping iced tea and scrolling through venues on her laptop. She was humming. She does that when she's relaxed. And for a split second, I let myself believe maybe, just maybe, this wedding might actually go down without any nonsense. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Maddie. Call me when you're alone. Don't panic. Now, that's the kind of message that guarantees panic. I stepped out to the balcony, called her, and she picked up whispering like she was in a spy movie. Turned out, she'd just come back from meeting my parents. I wasn't there. Work had me tied up, and she figured a solo visit might smooth things over. Instead, it dropped her into the twilight zone. They sat me down, she said, and gave me a condition for the wedding. I nearly dropped the phone. She continued. They said they'd pay for everything. Venue, catering, flowers, cake, the works, but only if April got to walk down the aisle first. I stood there, blinking at the sky like it had personally offended me. Wait, like before you walked down? No, Maddie said, voice ice cold. Instead of me, they want her to wear a wedding dress. At our wedding, like some kind of opening act. Now I've heard some crazy things in my life. Once saw a guy in Kansas try to deep fry a frozen turkey in his bathtub. But this was a new level of stupid. I couldn't speak for a few seconds. My brain just sat there spinning its wheels like a stuck tractor. Maddie was quiet too, giving me space to process. Then she said the 6 words that lit the fuse. She was smiling the whole time. You ever had someone look you in the eye and grin while planning your public humiliation? That's what April was doing. Already seeing herself in white, soaking up the stares, the sympathy, the spotlight that wasn't hers to begin with. And my parents? They were enabling it like she was asking to borrow a sweater, not hijack a whole damn wedding. I clenched the phone and said, we're not doing that. Hell no. But Maddie was already way ahead of me. I told them we'd think about it, she said. You what? Relax, she said, sounding way too pleased with herself. I said we'd think about it, because I want to mess with them. And just like that, the storm started brewing in Maddie's smile. She laid it out for me. A plan so slick it'd make a con man jealous. We'd play along, nod, smile, pretend to go along with it. Meanwhile, we'd line up security, redirect the real wedding details, and make sure the only aisle April saw was the one leading back to her car. She even roped in her brother, cool-headed, logistics guy, worked in event planning for a few years. Said he could make it look like we were going one way, while everything was happening somewhere else. It was genius. I wasn't just marrying a beautiful woman. I was marrying a general with a battle plan. So we started the game. Told my parents we appreciated their support. Let April try on dresses. Let her believe, for once, she'd stolen the show again. But the thing about con games is, they only work if the mark thinks they're smarter than you. And April? She thought she was the queen of the whole damn kingdom. Now, when I tell you this part felt like watching a slow-motion car crash, I mean it. You see it coming, it's ugly, it's loud, and somehow, nobody in the car realizes they're barreling into a ditch. Maddie and I had laid the groundwork. Every visit to my parents' house, we played the role. Grateful, agreeable, a little hesitant, just enough to sell it. And April? She was glowing like she'd just won prom queen. Kept tossing around phrases like, I'm doing this for family, and it's only fair. Fair. That word stuck in my teeth like a popcorn kernel. Like the years of being blamed, punished, and ignored were somehow balanced out by her getting to cosplay as a bride at my wedding. Then came the kicker. We were sitting in my parents' living room. Fake fireplace crackling, because of course it was. My dad nursing a beer, my mom dabbing tears of joy every few minutes like a professional mourner. Maddie smiled through it all like a champ. Then April walked in with a binder. You ever seen a wedding vision binder? I hadn't, but I sure have now. This thing looked like it came straight out of Pinterest, and regret. Color swatches, cake styles, music choices, but all of them. For her. April wanted to co-theme the wedding. Said she and I shared history. So it was only natural we share the most important day in our lives. I looked at Maddie. She looked at me. We smiled. We'll take it under advisement, Maddie said like she was speaking to a deranged board of trustees. Then came the offer. Dad cleared his throat. Look, we know this is a lot. So here's the deal. We'll pay for everything. The venue, food, decorations, the DJ, if April walks first. Just symbolically. And she gets some nice pictures. That's it. Just one walk. And a dress, Mom added. And a cake, April said, flipping to a page with floral tears and gold trim. Maddie blinked. So, you're saying we can have our wedding, as long as April gets hers at the same time? Exactly, April beamed. We're a package deal. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. It was so absurd I started to wonder if this was one big, elaborate prank. Like maybe a hidden camera crew was going to burst in and yell gotcha. But nope, these people were dead serious. We left with hugs, handshakes, and a promise to think about it. The second we got in the car, Maddie burst out laughing so hard she nearly cried. I mean, she said between gasps, I knew your family was bad, but I didn't know they were off-Broadway weird. They're worse than that, I muttered. They're dinner theater. We drove in silence for a while after that, just letting the absurdity wash over us. Then Maddie turned to me and said, All right, it's official. We're not just planning a wedding. I looked at her. We're planning a takedown. Planning a wedding is usually about joy and love and overpriced appetizers. But ours turned into a covert operation, complete with fake-out menus, decoy flower arrangements, and a guest list so carefully combed over it could have passed a CIA background check. See, we said yes. Yup. Looked my mom right in the eye, and I said, if it means that much to y'all, we'll do it. She teared up, squeezed my hand, and whispered, I always knew you had your sister's best interests at heart. Reader, I did not. Behind the curtain, Maddie and I were running a two-person sting. Her brother, Jonah, the reasonable one, helped us book 2 venues, one official and one real. To my folks, we showed them the first one, the budget-friendly, bare-bones event hall near the interstate. Took April there, let her test walk the aisle, try on dresses under the warm glow of fluorescent lights. Meanwhile, the real venue? Tucked away in the hills, private vineyard-style place with wide-open skies, a stone patio, and not a single folding chair in sight. Our names were on the contract, not theirs. And not a peep about it ever made it to a text or email. Everything done old school. In person, notebooks, code names if we were feeling dramatic. April kept texting Maddie about our vision. Maddie pretended to forget her name half the time. Every time we compromised, like when we picked a cake flavor and then changed our minds after April threw a fit, we'd tell them it was for family harmony. In reality, we were stalling, letting them dig deeper into their own ridiculous fantasy. My folks, bless their blind spots, poured money into it. Flowers, food tastings, upgrades. Maddie would whisper to April how she wished we could afford the nicer bouquet, and April, never missing a chance to one-up, would insist my parents cover the fancy ones. Maddie would sigh and nod, playing the grateful pushover. Meanwhile, we ordered what we actually wanted at the real venue. It was almost too easy, but not without risks. We had to turn down their pick for a wedding dress. Now that caused a stir. My mom texted me photos of this lacy number that looked like it came off a clearance rack from 1986, swearing April helped pick it out because it flattered my modest frame. I sent a polite text declining it, which set off a 3-day guilt trip campaign about how I was too prideful and not thinking about family optics. Dad called and said, Your sister is making a big sacrifice here. A sacrifice, y'all. Like she was walking into a battlefield instead of a wedding she wasn't invited to in the first place. But the best part? April tried to flirt with me. Not directly. She wasn't that far gone, but through Maddie's phone, by accident. Sent a text clearly meant for Maddie's number, but forgot she was messaging me. Something like, Tell your fiancé I looked cute in that dress today. He kept sneaking glances, winking face. I showed Maddie. She snorted so hard, she nearly dropped her coffee. We sent no reply. Instead, Maddie forwarded the message to herself, labeled it Exhibit A, and we added it to the growing file labeled, In Case of Gaslighting. As the big day crept closer, things got tighter. More texts. More requests. April asked if she could make a speech. Maddie agreed, said she could say something short and sweet during the toast. What April didn't know was, she wouldn't even make it past the front gate. That's when we brought in the last piece of the plan, security. Not tuxedo-wearing mall cops. We're talking a guy named Marcus, 6'4", ex-Marine, polite but firm. He had one job: keep April out. No fuss, no shouting. Just a clipboard and a simple line. "Sorry, ma'am. The bride's already here." We paid him extra to act like he'd never heard of her. And with that, the trap was set. The night before the wedding, Maddie and I sat on the porch of our rental house. The quiet kind of night where the only sound is the wind rattling dry leaves and a few crickets trying their luck with love songs. She leaned back in her chair, feet on the railing, sipping ginger ale like she was about to watch a good OL Western. "Think they're on to us?" she asked. I smirked. Not unless April got a sudden degree in humility. See, April had been busy. The final week, she was more involved than we were, or thought she was. She'd picked out a playlist for her walk, helped Mom plan the joint cake cutting, and even posted on Instagram about being so honored to support her little brother on his big day. That post had a picture of her trying on a full-length white gown, with a veil, and captioned, "Practicing my walk. Can't wait to stand by my brother Two Hearts' bride with veil." She had no idea how close she was to the exit. The big day arrived. Sun shining, skies clear. Maddie looked like a dream wrapped in calm fury. Hair done up. Dress we actually picked. Bouquet that cost my parents a fortune but matched our real colors. She looked like Grace with a secret. Me? I wore the suit April said was too plain, and Maddie called perfect. And I had the clipboard in my pocket, just in case. Now, we kept things lean at the gate. Only one guard, Marcus. We didn't want a military operation, just a calm, professional wall between chaos and our vows. To anyone arriving early, Marcus was just the guy checking RSVPs. My folks got there about 20 minutes before the ceremony. They smiled. They hugged. April wasn't with them. Yet, Dad gave me that firm, fake patriarch handshake and said, "Your sister's getting ready. She wanted to make an entrance." "Of course," I said. Mom nodded, misty-eyed. "She's so nervous. This means a lot to her." "Does it?" Maddie asked sweetly, stepping in. I thought it was our wedding. They laughed like that was a joke. It wasn't. We got everyone seated. Bridesmaids in place. Music ready. Vows tucked in Maddie's bouquet ribbon. I stood off to the side with my best man, heart steady, eyes locked on the path. Then it happened. Dad got a text, pulled out his phone, read it, and got up from his seat. Motioned to my two bridesmaids, Maddie's cousins, who'd been prepped for this very moment. "April's ready," he said. They stood, nodded, and walked with him back toward the entrance, just like we knew they would. They'd been told to follow his lead and clear the path. We had one more player in this, Maddie's friend Claire. Not in the wedding party, just a guest. But she had one job: text us when Dad took position at the start of the aisle. One text, "He's in place." That was our signal. Claire sent the message. Maddie took my arm. And right then, as the music began to swell, we walked out. Heads turned. Gasps. Whispers. Because the bride wasn't late, like April assumed. The bride was already there. The guests stood. I saw my dad's eyes go wide, his mouth open like a fish out of water. He turned, probably expecting to see April behind us. But the view from where he stood didn't show the entrance anymore. She was too late. We reached the altar. The officiant gave me the nod. Maddie gave my hand a squeeze like, "We got him." And that's when Dad's phone rang. You ever seen a man go from smug to panicked in 2 seconds? I did. He looked at the screen, said something to the officiant, who, bless her, just smiled and gestured him back to his seat like a kindergarten teacher. He hesitated, then walked off down the aisle, muttering under his breath. Right then, Claire leaned over and whispered, loud enough for 5 rows to hear, "He told her it wasn't supposed to be you." Cue the shock, the whispers, the stares. I kept my face straight. Maddie blinked again, and nailed her part. Teary, stunned, betrayed. Academy Award worthy. Claire rushed off toward the gate like she was part of a made-for-TV scandal. And what she saw out there, well, that's for the next chapter. So, while Maddie and I stood under that altar, calm as could be with 1,000 whispered questions flying behind us, all eyes turned to the back, expectant some dramatic entrance. You know, like in the movies where the real bride bursts in, soaked from the rain, stopping the ceremony with one breathless, I object. Only this wasn't a movie. This was real life. And in real life, April showed up late, in a full-blown wedding gown, with her hair pinned up like she was about to marry the mayor, grinning like a possum who just found an open cooler full of fried chicken. And there, standing square between her and the gate, was Marcus, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on, cool as the other side of the pillow. She marched right up to him, holding her phone up like a badge. "My name's April," she said. "I'm the bride." Marcus didn't even blink. "Bride's already here, ma'am." April laughed. "No, I'm the real bride. There's been a mix-up." He tilted his head just slightly, that big OL earpiece catching the sun. "No, ma'am, no mix-up. I got one bride on my list, and she's already inside. Now, let me pause here. You gotta understand. April had been waiting for this moment. She had the walk rehearsed, dress steamed, photographer on call. She had plans. And Marcus just stomped them into the dirt with 6 words. Inside, Claire returned, whispering the play-by-play to Maddie's cousin like it was a sports broadcast. "Your sister is absolutely losing it." Sure enough, from across the lawn, we could hear shouting. "April, this is my moment." "Marcus, not today." Dad returned, trying to fix things. Told Marcus there must be some mistake. "She's my daughter." Marcus didn't even flinch. "Doesn't change the list, sir." Now Mom came rushing up. Tears, drama, the full show. "You're embarrassing us." "Just let her walk down the aisle. She's already dressed." Marcus kept his stance, voice smooth. "If you'd like to file a complaint, I recommend emailing the bride and groom after the event." By now, half the guests had wandered outside. Some whispered. Some filmed. Phones popped up like prairie dogs. Inside, we kept the ceremony rolling. Rings exchanged. Vows said. But even I couldn't help catch snippets from outside, shouting, crying, then a sudden loud thump. That, turns out, was April, sitting on the pavement in her gown, arms crossed, wailing like a toddler mid-tantrum. My dad tried to pick her up, but she swatted at him like a mosquito. My mom was shouting into her phone at who? No one really knows. Probably God. Then, just as the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," someone sprinted in and whispered to Maddie's dad. He calmly walked up to me, leaned in, and said, "Your sister is screaming about lawsuits." I nodded. We expected that. Maddie leaned close to the mic and said, "And now, we party." The guests erupted. Applause, music, champagne corks, and April's tantrum was drowned out by the sound of celebration. Later, one of Maddie's uncles came up and said, "Son, I don't know what kind of voodoo y'all just pulled, but I haven't been this entertained since your cousin's 3rd divorce." Now the kicker. When my dad tried to get in again, claiming Marcus wasn't real security, Marcus calmly handed him a laminated ID and said, "Hired by the bride and groom. Paid in full. And sir, I do not get paid enough to listen to you threaten me." They tried to argue. Accused Marcus of being a fake. So Marcus offered to call the cops for them. That's when they realized it was over. They'd been duped. The plan had worked. April, still sitting on the ground, ruined dress and mascara running, screamed one last gem. "He tricked us. He's a snake." Marcus just tipped his sunglasses and said, "Ma'am, that snake just got married." The ceremony was over, the guests were clapping, and Maddie and I? We were finally husband and wife. She looked at me under those twinkle lights like she had just won the lottery, and far as I'm concerned, she did. So did I. Now, normally, this is where you get champagne toasts and polite small talk with folks you haven't seen since middle school. But our reception? It had a whole other energy, like everyone knew they were sitting front row for a once-in-a-lifetime soap opera. The buzz around the tables wasn't, "Who catered the salmon?" It was, "Did you see April's face? And was that a real security guy?" And bless their nosy hearts, our guests loved it. See, while Maddie and I were cutting the cake, the actual wedding cake, not April's fake fantasy one, my mom and dad were outside, frantically texting, calling, pacing in circles. April was still out there too, mascara down to her chin, screeching into her phone like she was in a hostage situation. Now here's where it gets extra sweet. Our friend Claire, the one who ran recon during the ceremony, came back to the reception with an update. She leaned over and whispered, "They're saying you set them up. That you tricked them." I raised an eyebrow. "How exactly did I do that?" "According to your mom," Claire said, barely holding her laugh, "you manipulated them into planning your wedding and let them embarrass themselves." I blinked. Which part was supposed to be my trick? The part where they demanded my sister walk the aisle like a warm-up act, or the part where they didn't check whose name was on the venue contract? Claire grinned. "Exactly. They're imploding out there." Then Maddie's cousin chimed in. "Your sister tried to bribe Marcus. Twice. When he said no, she threatened to expose him online. Did he laugh?" "Oh yeah." Said, "Ma'am, I don't even use the internet." Meanwhile, The footage was already spreading. Folks had pulled out phones the moment April started melting down like a summer popsicle. Some videos hit social media before the cake was served. Hashtag wedding showdown. Hashtag not your aisle. Hashtag bride denied. One clip showed my dad pointing a finger at Marcus while April was sobbing on the curb. In the background, you could hear the muffled sound of our wedding vows, crystal clear juxtaposition. By the time Maddie and I took our first dance, 3 different people had shown me memes folks were already making. One had April photoshopped into a toddler car seat, screaming. Caption: when you didn't get your way at someone else's wedding. And let me tell you something, the dance floor was lit. Everyone had this energy like they were dancing not just to celebrate us, but to blow off steam after witnessing the crumbling of a royal family. At one point, Maddie whispered, "Is it bad I'm enjoying this more than the honeymoon?" I grinned. "Nah, you earned this." And she had. After a while, someone came to find me. Said my father was waiting outside, said he needed to speak as a man. Now, there are 2 kinds of men in this world, the kind who learn from their mistakes, and the kind who double down. Guess which one showed up? He was standing just beyond the lights, tie loosened, face redder than a ripe tomato. "I just want to say," he started, "you humiliated this family." I didn't say anything, just crossed my arms and waited. "You tricked us," he said. "Made fools of us." I finally spoke. "No, Dad. You did that on your own. All I did was let you." He stared at me like he didn't understand the words. "You sided with April. Again. You let her turn my wedding into some twisted Make-A-Wish parade, and then got mad when I didn't let her crash it." His jaw tightened. "She's your sister. And I'm your son," I said. "But you never figured out how to treat me like one." Then I turned around and walked back inside. He didn't follow. They never came back in. Not my parents. Not April. Not once. We partied till past midnight. My new in-laws were on cloud 9. Folks were dancing barefoot, stuffing themselves with cake, snapping photos, sharing stories. And me? I felt lighter than I had in decades. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't playing defense. I wasn't surviving someone else's storm. I was building my own peace. The morning after the wedding, Maddie and I woke up in a small suite at a cozy little inn out near the vineyards. Still in our fancy clothes, hair a mess, makeup smudged, and not a single regret between us. We had champagne for breakfast, which was really just warm ginger ale in 2 fancy glasses, and Maddie toasted to being the villain in their story. I raised my glass. Long may we reign. Now, I ain't big on social media. I don't post much more than the occasional barbecue plate or a blurry dog photo. But that morning, my phone was blowing up like someone set off fireworks in my pocket. Turns out, several of our guests had taken it upon themselves to document the entire incident. From April's parking lot meltdown to my dad hissing at security like a feral raccoon, it was all out there. And folks weren't shy about sharing it either. Videos, memes, side-by-sides of Maddie's elegant walk down the aisle next to April sitting in the gravel in a white gown that looked more and more like a bed sheet every time I saw it. My favorite post? A screenshot of April screaming with the caption, "When you realize the wedding wasn't about you." Some of the guests tagged April directly. Others were a little more subtle, captions like "Best wedding ever." Unexpected plot twist halfway through. October 10th. By noon, April had gone radio silent. Deleted her Instagram, locked her Facebook. I imagine she spent most of the day buried under blankets, tossing evil glances at her phone between sobs. My parents? They didn't call. Didn't text. Not even a congratulations. All we got was one mass email from my mom sent to family and close friends, saying, "Due to some unexpected confusion at the ceremony, we are taking a short break from social media to focus on healing. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time." Confusion? Ma'am, you tried to co-opt your son's wedding for your other child and got bounced at the door. That's not confusion. That's karma in a tailored suit. Meanwhile, the rest of the family, the sane side, was blowing up my inbox with messages like, "I always knew something was off about your sister. Your dad just looked defeated. Good. Tell Maddie I've never laughed that hard at a wedding before." Even a few cousins I hadn't talked to in years sent notes thanking us. Yes, thanking us for standing up to the circus. Said it gave them the courage to start setting their own boundaries. Funny how truth spreads faster than gossip sometimes. One of Maddie's uncles asked if we'd sell the story to Netflix. I told him if Netflix brings a check, I'd even throw in deleted scenes. But not everyone was laughing. Later that week, Maddie got a message from April. Just one line. "You'll regret this. He'll betray you too." Maybe with me. We printed that out, hung it on the fridge. Then her tone shifted. 2 days later, she tried again. I was in a bad place. You set me up. You humiliated me. But maybe if you apologize publicly, we can still fix this. Maddie replied. You humiliated yourself. We just didn't stop you. I couldn't have said it better. A few more texts trickled in, long, rambling, dramatic. Stuff about family loyalty, public embarrassment, emotional trauma, narcissistic abuse. All the buzzwords she probably picked up from TikTok therapists. Eventually, Maddie blocked her. As for my parents, I sent one message, just one. You made your choices. So did we. If you want to talk like adults, we're here. But if you're just gonna keep blaming everyone else, stay gone. Never heard back. It's been quiet ever since. No surprise visits. No doorstep drama. Just silence, heavy, but not unwelcome. And let me tell you, silence never sounded so peaceful.